Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Hello dear students, welcome to another lecture. So we were reading the autobiography by Anne Frank, the diary of Anne Frank, and we have to begin from the 20th of June 1942. So writing in a diary is a really strange experience for someone like me. Not only because I've never written anything before, but also because it seems to me that later on, neither I nor anyone else will be interested in the musings of the 13-year-old schoolgirl. Oh well, it does not matter. I feel like writing and I have an even greater need to get all kinds of things off my chest. So she tells us that writing was a very good and a very strange, a very different kind of an experience for her. Not only because she has not written anything before, but also because according to her, once she had written something in her diary, there is no one in the world who is going to be interested in the musings of a 13-year-old schoolgirl. Musings of a 13-year-old schoolgirl mean whatever amusing things, whatever funny things Anne Frank had written in that diary, she did not feel anybody would want to read that. Oh well, she thought that it would hardly matter. She just wanted to write. Why did she want to write? Because there were a lot of things she had on her chest. That is, there was a lot of burden on her chest with respect to the feelings that she had at that time. And she wanted to get rid of all those things going on in her mind. I need a diary because I don't have any friends. I have loving parents and a 16-year-old sister. And there are about 30 people I can call friends. I also have a lot of admirers who can't keep their eyes off me. No, on the surface I seem to have everything except one true friend. All I think about when I'm with my friends is having a good time. I can't bring myself to talk about anything but ordinary everyday things. Maybe it's my fault that we don't confide in each other. In any case, that's just how things are, and unfortunately they are not likely to change. This is why I have started the diary. So, she tells us that the reason why she needs a diary in her life is because she does not have any friend. She says that she has wonderful parents, she has an elder sister who's 16 years of age, and there are approximately 30 people that she can call as her friends. Moreover, on the top of it, she had a lot of admirers. She has a lot of people who really like her a lot and who just cannot take their eyes off her, who just cannot remove their eyes off her. So she tells us that on the surface, on the whole, when you see something from an overview, everything seems to be fine. I, have everything in life except a true friend. She says that I just want to have a good time with my friends. I can't bring myself to talk about anything but ordinary everyday things. So she says that when I want to talk to somebody, when I want to have a friend and talk to my friend, there's nothing special that I want to discuss about. They are just normal, ordinary things, simple things that take place on an everyday basis. Maybe it's my fault that we don't confide in each other. So she says that, I think it is my fault that the friends that I have, I don't confide in them. We do not have that faith in each other so we can share our secrets with each other. In any case, that's just how things are, and unfortunately they are not likely to change. So she says that this is how my life has been and I don't expect it to change. And this is the reason why she started writing a diary. Let's start with the story of my life. My father, the most adorable father I have seen, did not marry my mother until he was 36 and she was 25. My sister Margaret was born in Frankfurt, in Maine, in Germany, 1926. I was born on June 12, 1929. I lived in Frankfurt until I was 4. Because we are Jewish, my father immigrated to Holland in 1933, where he became the managing director of the Dutch company called Optica, which manufactures products used in making jam. So she tells us about her life, about the story of her life. She tells us about her father, who according to her is the most adorable father, the most loving, the most caring, the most wonderful father anybody can have. And she also tells us that her father did not marry her mother until he reached the age of 36 and her mother was 25. Her elder sister, whose name was Margaret, she was born in Frankfurt, Maine, which is the name of the city in Frankfurt, in Germany, 1926, while Anne Frank herself was born in 1929 on June 12. She tells us that since they are Jewish, her father had to immigrate, had to move to Holland in 1933, and there he became the managing director of a Dutch company. The name of that company was Optica. And what did the company do? It manufactured the products which are used in making jams. After May 1940, the good times were few and rare. First, there was the war, and then the Germans arrived in Holland, which is when the trouble started for the Jews. So, after 1940 May, the good times were few and rare. There was hardly anything good that took place to them. There was hardly anything nice that took place around them. First, there was the war, and then there were the Germans who arrived in Holland, who moved in Holland, which is when the Jews started, having trouble. So once the war started, the Jews were in a big trouble. Our freedom was severely restricted by a series of anti-Jewish laws. Jews were required to wear a yellow star. They were to walk everywhere. They had to do their shopping in Jewish shops and be indoors by 8 o'clock at night. They could not even sit in their own garden after that time. They were forbidden to use the swimming pools, tennis courts and hockey fields. They were forbidden to visit Christians in their homes and were only allowed to attend Jewish schools, etc. So, there were a lot of anti-Jewish laws that were made which restricted their freedom severely. So, their freedom was restricted to a great extent. The Jews were supposed to wear a yellow star all the time. They were to walk everywhere. So, they just were allowed to walk. There was no mode of transport that they could use. They could only go for shopping in the shops that belonged to Jews, and no matter what, they had to be inside their homes by 8 o'clock. Even they were not allowed to sit in their own gardens after 8. Now, they were forbidden, so they were not allowed to use the swimming pool, the tennis court, the hockey fields. They were also not allowed to visit the Christians. If they had a Christian friend, they were not allowed to visit them, and the children had to attend only the Jewish school. Okay, so Saturday, 21 June 1942. Our entire class is trembling. The reason, of course, is the upcoming meeting in which the teachers decide who will be promoted to the next grade and who will be kept back. I'm not so worried about my girlfriends and myself. We'll make it. The only subject I'm not sure of is maths. Anyway, all we can do is wait. So she writes for 21st June 1942, she tells us that the entire class was trembling. Trembling was shaking with fear. The reason was there was an upcoming meeting. So a meeting was supposed to take place in which the teachers had to decide who all will be promoted to the next class and who all will be retained in the same class. Anne Frank says that she was not worried because she knew that she, along with her girlfriends, her friends are going to make it. They are certainly going to pass. But there was still one subject in which Anne had some doubts, and that subject was math. But she said that we did not have an option and we were simply supposed to wait. I get along pretty well with all my teachers. Mr. Keesing, who teaches math, often gets mad at me because I talk so much. After several warnings, he assigned me extra homework, an essay on the subject, a chatterbox. So, she tells us that she got along with all her teachers very well. So, she had a very cordial relationship with her teachers. Mr. Keesing, who was their maths teacher, he usually got mad at her. He was a little irritated with her. Why? Because Anne Frank talked a lot. So he gave her several warnings. He gave him a lot of work. But, there was one special homework that was given to Anne Frank one day, and that was an essay on the subject, a chatterbox. We all know this term chatterbox is used for somebody who speaks a lot. Wednesday, 24th June. It is boiling hot. We all are positively melting, and in this heat, I have to walk everywhere. I have to walk everywhere. Only now do I realize how pleasant public transport is. But we Jews are no longer allowed to make use of this luxury. Yesterday at lunchtime, I had an appointment with the dentist. It is so far away from our school that I nearly fell asleep afterwards in the afternoon. Fortunately, the dentist's assistant was really kind, and gave me a drink. So, 1942, 24th of June, she tells us that it was boiling hot. So there was a lot of, heat around them. It was very warm and they were all melting. She said that it was so hot that I can say we all were melting. And in that heat, she had to walk everywhere. Why? Because being a Jew, she was not allowed to use any public transport. And it was then when she understood and she realized the importance of public transport. But Jews were not allowed to make use of this luxury. Now, luxury is a term that we use for something which is not available to all. Okay. So, yesterday, that is 23rd of June at lunchtime, she had an appointment with a dentist. And she says that dentist was so far away from my school that she almost fell asleep after that. Now, the moment she reached the dental clinic, she almost fell asleep. The dentist's assistant, so the assistant of the dentist was very kind, and therefore the assistant gave her a drink so that she could feel a bit fresh. Something unexpected happened yesterday morning. A nice boy called Harry Silverberg asked if he could accompany me to school. Harry is 16 and good at telling funny stories. He was waiting for me again this morning, and I expect he will be every day from now on. So, Anne Frank tells us that there was something very strange that happened with her in the morning. And what happened? A very nice boy whose name was Harry Seelberg, he asked Anne Frank if he could accompany her to the school. So, Harry wanted to visit Anne Frank's school. Harry was 16 and he was very good at cracking wonderful stories. He was waiting for me again this morning. So Anne Frank says that yesterday we had a meeting, that is the 23rd of June, and today being the 24th of June, he was again waiting for me at the same spot. And she said that I believe that he is going to be there on all the days. Now what happened on 1st July 1942, which was a Wednesday? Until today, I honestly could not find the time to write here. Harry and I have gotten to know each other very well this past week, and he's told me about his life. His parents are in Belgium and he's staying here in Holland with his grandparents. He has a girlfriend called Fanny, but he told me that after having met me, he's not interested in her anymore. I know her too. She's perfectly sweet and perfectly boring. So Anne Frank says that after that day, I did not find time to write in my diary. She tells us that she, along with Harry, were doing very well. They were getting along very well, and Harry told her about her life. His parents lived in Belgium, and in Holland, Harry stayed with his grandparents. Harry had a girlfriend whose name was Fanny, but Harry told Anne Frank that now that he has met Anne Frank, he does not want to be with his girlfriend anymore because he really liked Anne Frank. Now, Anne Frank also told us that she knew that girl as well, and the girl was very sweet. So, she was as sweet and boring as you can imagine. So there was a combination of both these qualities in her. Harry told me that his grandmother does not like him meeting me. But on Wednesday night, she thinks he goes for woodwork classes, but he does not, so he will be free to see me. So Harry told Anne Frank that Harry's grandmother does not like Harry meeting Anne Frank. But on Wednesday's night, Harry's grandmother goes for her woodwork classes where she learns how to make things using wood. But he does not, so he will be free to see me. So he thought that he did not go anywhere, but his grandmother met somewhere, and therefore in his grandmother's absence, he thought he will be free to meet Anne Frank. If your grandparents don't want you to, you should not go behind their backs. Anne told Harry that if your grandparents are telling you to stop talking to me, then you ought to listen to what they are saying. You should not cheat them. You should not do anything wrong with them. All's fair in love and war. Now this is exactly what Harry said. He said that all's fair in love and war. So he said that I am so much in love with you, he told Anne Frank, that I don't care what people think about me. Harry came over to meet father and mother yesterday. Afterwards, we went out for a walk and we did not get back until 8:10. Father was furious because it was dangerous for Jews to be out after 8. I had to promise to be home by 10 to 8 in the future. So Harry came to meet her father and her mother the day before, and after that they both, that is Harry and Anne Frank, they went for a walk and they came back very late. They came back at 8:10. So 10 minutes over 8 they returned back. When they came back at 8:10, Anne's father was very furious. He was very angry because it was very dangerous for the Jews to roam around or to come outside their houses after 8 o'clock. So Anne had to promise that this time or the next time there is going to be no delay with respect to her returning back home. Now on the 5th of July 1942, Anne Frank says that my report card was not too bad this year. My parents are pleased, but they are not like other parents when it comes to grade. They will never worry. They never worry about report cards, good or bad. My sister Margaret has also gotten her report card. Brilliant as usual. So, on the 5th of July, Anne Frank got her report card and she tells us that it was not that bad. So, it was bad, but it was not that bad. And she also tells us that her parents were very pleased. They were very happy because they were not like the other parents who ran behind the grades. They did not worry about the report card, whether it was good or it was bad. Her sister Margaret, she also got her report card, and as always, the remark in her report card said, brilliant. Father has been home a lot lately. Being a Jew, he can't work at the office anymore. It must be awful to feel you're not needed. A few days ago, we were taking a stroll around our neighborhood. Father began to talk about going into hiding. He said it would be very hard for us to live cut off from the rest of the world. I asked him why he was bringing this up now. Well, Annie, he replied, you don't know that for more than a year, we have been secretly storing away our clothes, food and furniture. We did not want to fall into the hands of the Germans. So, father has, her father used to return back home and was at home also most of the times. Why was he at home most of the times? Because he was not allowed to work in his office building. Now, it was awful, he told Annie, that at times it feels very, very bad when you are not needed, when you feel that you are not welcome at a place. Now, a few days later, when Anne Frank and her father were taking a stroll around the neighborhood, so they were going on a walk, they were taking a walk in the neighborhood, when Anne Frank's father asked her about going into hiding. He asked her how she would feel if they were to go into the hiding space. He told Anne Frank that this hiding is going to be a very long one and a very difficult for us as well, because this ways we are going to be cut off from the rest of the world. I asked him why he was bringing this up. So Anne did not understand the reason why his father initiated this conversation. So he told Anne that, well, Anne, you know that from more than a year, so he told Anne Frank that he's built them a small house, a secret house, and for 1 year he has been storing small things and putting into the place of that house. And what things are mentioned here? They say, okay, so here it isn't written, but otherwise it is your CCTV cameras, then your phones. At that time, obviously, it was the phone, but the father was simply telling them that how he has been managing to store everything. So, there's a lot of difference with the needs of the people at present and with the needs of the people in the past. So, when we talk about the cameras and phones, this is the need of the hour. But in those days, the first thing that the father stored in that hiding was food, then clothes and furniture. And she was told by her father that he did not want them to fall into the hands of the Germans. So he just did not want them to be caught by the Germans. But when father, he sounded so serious that I felt scared. And father was very serious when he said so. So Anne Frank asked him that when is this going to happen? When are we going to get free from this? Father was very serious. There was a very serious expression on his face, but he did not answer anything. He simply said that you don't worry. We are going to take care of everything. And in the meanwhile, you just look after yourself. What happened on the June 8, 1942? So it seems like years since Sunday morning, so much has happened. It's as if the whole world had suddenly turned upside down, but we are still alive, and that is the main thing. So, 1942, 8th July. Although there have been only a couple of weekends from that day where the father told her about their hiding place to 8th of July, but a lot had happened with the Franks family. It seemed as if the whole world was upside down. She thought the entire world has changed, but she was grateful that they were still alive. So on Sunday afternoon, we heard that father was to be taken away by the Germans. Visions of concentration camps and lonely cells raced through my heart. How could we let father go to such a fate? Mother's gone to Mr. Van Dan to ask whether we can move to our hiding place tomorrow, said Margaret. Mr. Van Dan was father's good friend and business associate whose family was to go into hiding with us. Later, Margaret told me that the Germans had called her up, not father. At this second shock, I began to cry. Margaret is 16. Apparently, they want to send girls her age away on their own. But thank goodness she would not be going. So, Sunday afternoon, their father went to talk to Dr. Van Dan. Why? Because that very same afternoon, he was supposed to be taken by the Germans to the concentration camps. Now the vision means the imagination. So when she started imagining about the concentration camps and those those prisons where a person was supposed to be kept alone, that made her feel very bad. She thought that how could they leave her father go to a concentration camp? Now, mother was sent. So, Anne Frank's mother was sent by her father to Mr. Van Dan to ask him if the next day they could shift to their hiding. Now, Mr. Van Dan, as has been told to us, was a good friend and a business partner of his father. And when Mr. Van Dan got to know about it, he was obviously very shocked, but thank goodness he was not going. So he was shocked, he was sad, but the only great part is that, he was not going. So neither was the father going to go away, nor her sister Margaret was going to be taken away. Hiding? Where would we hide? In the city, in the country, in a house, in a shack. When, where, how? These were all questions I was not allowed to ask, but they still kept running through my mind. Margaret and I started packing. The first thing I stuck in was the diary and then curlers, handkerchiefs, school books, a comb, some old letters. Preoccupied by the thoughts of going into hiding, I stuck the craziest things in the bag, but I am not sorry. Meanwhile, more to come than dresses. Meep arrived to help us pack and left, taking with her a bag full of our clothes. Meep, who works for father, and her husband Jan are good friends of So she further tells us that she asked her father about this hiding place. So she was very curious to know where this place was, in which city, in which house they are going to live. Is it going to be a shack, a small hut kind of a thing, or a proper house? And she said that these were all the questions that I had in my mind, but I just could not ask. So, without saying anything, she, along with her sister, started packing. And the first thing that she put in her bag was her diary. And then it was her colors, her handkerchief, her school books and comb and some old letters. Now, she says that since I was preoccupied, I was too busy with the thoughts about the hiding going in my mind, that I did not even think of all the things I was packing in my bag. According to me, I had put up the craziest things, the most crazy things she ended up putting in her bags. Memories mean to move to me than dresses. Sure. Then she said that, she just wanted that she should not take many dresses along with her, because for her, her memories, her feelings, her emotions mattered more than her dresses. Meep arrived to help them pack. And who was Meep? He was a person who worked with her father and her husband. So Meep's husband and Jan are good friends. I slept in my own bed for the last time that night. Mother woke me up at 5:30 the next morning. The four of us left the house wrapped in so many layers of clothes. No Jew in our situation would dare leave the house with a suitcase full of clothes. We just wanted to get out of there and reach destination in safety. Nothing else mattered. So she said that night, it was the last time that I slept in my bed, in my comfortable bed. And she says that she felt very bad when her mother woke her up at 5:30 in the morning. So, four of them, that is Anne Frank, Margaret, her parents, they were all wrapped in multiple clothes because it was very cold, and they had a big suitcase in their hands. And Anne Frank tells us that this was really funny because in that situation that was going on, not even a single person would have gathered the courage to actually take a suitcase and travel from one place to the other. Okay. So, we just wanted to get out of there. And Frank says that I just wanted that we should get out of that very bad place and reach our destination safely. So, whatever place they wanted to reach, she just wanted to reach there safely. Nothing else mattered to her. More tomorrow. So here she winded up with that day, and so far she's told us about the introduction. So what we've read is the introduction. How did Anne Frank end up writing a diary? Then we also read about the World War II and the positions, the condition that led to the growth of World War II. Then we read about Holocaust and the cruelty of the Nazi party on the people. And then we had started reading the accounts of Anne Frank's diary, where she's telling us about her birthday and about the other days at school. So my dear students, I'm going to pause here now. I am going to continue with the next date in my next lecture. So I'll see you all now in the next video. Thank you.